I'm Karla Marie Sweet, and this is the PlayMakers Podcast, a podcast by Box of Tricks Theatre Company that's all about platforming creative conversations with theatre makers from all parts of the industry. This episode's guest is the brilliant Carmen Greenhill. Ella is a playwright and screenwriter, best known for her work on the iconic British soap Coronation Street, where she has written over 80 episodes. She's also written on Mallory Towers and The Dumping Ground. Her theatre credits include touring show Plastic Figurines, produced by Box of Tricks. Ella's writing is celebrated for its keen insight into human relationships, exploring themes of identity, family, and social justice. Ella, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So we have got into the habit on this podcast of doing a little bit of audio description at the beginning of every episode. So Ella, if you could describe yourself and what you are wearing, please.
Oh my goodness, I don't know.
Shall I start? I'll start. So I am a woman of dual heritage, African American and white British, and I am wearing a dark green long sleeve top with a sort of kind of a reversible waistcoat thing over the top that's got a sort of floral design. It's like a navy blue, green and orange. It's got flowers all over it. And I'm wearing a necklace with kind of a yellowy green jade stone. I'm wearing black trousers and black Doc Martens, and I have just past the shoulder curlyish brown hair. Over to you, Ella.
All right, I was just looking at my dress then going, what is it like? Yes, I'm a woman. I've got, my hair is many different colours at the minute. Naturally dark, kind of with crazy highlights in. I'm wearing a dress that has a kind of, is this floral?
Let's say
it is. A weird kind of floral little tea dress.
Hot pink nails, which are very nice.
Very hot pink nails, yes. And some gold and green rings.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's me.
And for those of you who are listening, perhaps to the podcast, or can't see the room that we're in for whatever reason, we are in the PlayMakers space, which has beautiful exposed brick walls. There's lots of Playtex around everywhere, and some very nice plants as well. So Ella, I'd really like to start with how you started. How did you get into writing in the first place?
Wow, I was, when I was really little, my mum used to buy me plays to read. I just really enjoyed kind of reading any little weird little plays that she'd get me, really. And then I thought I wanted to act, so I did drama at uni, and then realised that actually whenever there was a chance to write anything, I would go for that, and I just really enjoyed kind of that quieter time without people looking at me, kind of writing things down and then passing that on, sort of thing, going, I've kind of done this, and either performing that myself or giving that to other people. And then I applied, my friend convinced me to apply for the Young Writers programme at the Everyman Theatre in Liverpool. And that was when you had to ring up and say, hello, can I please have an application form? And he did that for me, and he was like, wow. I'm ringing on behalf of my friend because she doesn't think she can do this, but I want her to do it. So and I got onto that, and just the chance to kind of talk about writing and reading plays and seeing theatre, and that was just opened up a whole new world, really, for me, that was kind of like, here is a chance for you to have a voice, and then just went from there, really.
And at what point did you decide that perhaps acting wasn't for you and you just wanted to write full time?
I think when I was at uni, I realised that the nerves that I felt, I mean, I'm quite a nervous person anyway, but the nerves that I felt before going on stage just wasn't worth payoff for me. Whereas actually the accomplishment that I would feel, even when I'd written a 5-minute piece and more passing that on to someone else and seeing that being performed, and also having then a director come on and shaping that maybe in a different way, so there'd be surprising things for me that I'd written and go, oh yeah, I didn't really think of that little bit in that way, but now you've done that and you've opened up something else that I didn't realise was there as well. So I think that collaboration maybe I really enjoyed as well.
It's a special thing, that, isn't it? Because I know that some writers are incredibly precious about their work and they've got a very clear creative vision in their own mind, and when they get together with a director and the director has a different vision, it can be really quite triggering for them.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. That can be really, really frustrating as well, when you just go, no,
and the same with
not getting what I've tried to say. But I love, doing plastic figurines with Adam. He would bring things up that I would go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way. And it could be, it's just that interpretation. But there's also the real, sometimes you just go, no, it's not that.
And I think it's the same with kind of bringing actors into the project as well, because actors are always going to have a very different interpretation of that character to what you possibly wrote. But yeah, I totally agree that like collaboration is one of the most fun parts of this job, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Somebody imagining your work in a way that you never could have thought of is so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think like when I did when I've seen different ways that different bits of my work have been done by different directors and different companies, that's really interesting as well. Just like, wow, they've focused on that a bit more, or they've focused on that, and that's really nice because it opens up the way that you can get quite, I think especially when I write something, I can get quite, this is what it is, and I really enjoy that moment where I can kind of let it go. When you've written something and you've thought about it in a certain way, and the kind of freedom of kind of going, yes, I'm passing that on, and it's terrifying as well. It's the scariest thing ever, but it's really, I do think it's really important, because I think you can get very in your head and fixed with what something is, and it's interesting to see how other people might interpret something, or even when you do kind of think, wow, no, they're thinking about that in a completely different way to how I have. I've not been clear, or I need to go back and think about that as well. So,
and I've definitely found that even when creating my own work, and being in a show that I've written with other actors, there's been those moments in rehearsal where you're like trying to make a line work, and the other actor is forgetting the line over and over and over again, and they keep apologizing because they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I keep forgetting that line, and you're like, I do, it's because it's a bad line. It's because I've repeated I've repeated an emotional beat that doesn't need to be repeated. So it's quite, what other people kind of bring to the table by bringing those words to life can be so interesting, can't it? So on that note, I'd be really interested to ask you about how different you found it kind of creating your own characters and giving them lines, and how that compares to writing lines for iconic characters that are already established and that the audience know so well. I think there's an assumption that maybe it would be easier in a way to kind of, well, that person's created and been, Roy Cropper's been, alive for forever, so you just pick up. But actually it's really tough to get those voices at the beginning, definitely. And it was one of those things, people that I had watched on screen forever. Of course I know their voice. We'll know when you're writing them, and a lovely writer on the team said to me, just gave me some really lovely advice about, actually, it's not this person speaks very eloquently and properly, but they don't speak in like a flowery kind of way. And I was kind of writing this kind of very very kind of flowery dialogue, and I was like, wow, okay, and it's just,
questioning how you've thought you hear that person to how actually when they're on the page for those characters that have existed forever. And then, when you go, I think it's the order in which you do it. So then having worked at Corrie for, however long that was, and then I wrote something that was totally of my own mind. And I had to get out of the habit of, I can change that. That's it. I can change the way they've said that. I can change their intention, because it's not going to impact the episode before and the episode after, and it's not going to, actually, change it because I'm in charge. So it's really, really different, actually. But I mean, both brilliant, but you're just using a different part of your brain, maybe.
It's about as different as making spaghetti and riding a bicycle, isn't it? It's so worlds apart, isn't it? Yeah. And I think as well, there's that thing of, as you say, having to think about how the previous writer wrote their episode and how the next writer is writing that, and the number of, having worked on Hollyoaks, I know a little bit about this, the number of amends that you have to do because of the way that, because you're all getting your story beats, right? You're getting your story beats given to you by the story team, but how you interpret those story beats is going to be different because of what you bring to the table.
And how you put your stamp on that as well, because it is about you as a writer. It has to be. And you will watch the episodes, and I would say that most episodes of Corrie I will watch without looking at the person's name at the beginning and go, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, because of those. So it's like finding that balance between, like, yes, there's a voice that travels through the whole of Coronation Street and all of those characters always going through, but there's you as well as a writer that you need to
definitely
get yourself in there in a subtler way, but it's important. I think it's really important.
I can't tell you the number of times I've watched an episode of Corrie and got about halfway through and gone, God, this one's really funny, this episode. Who's written this? Yeah. And then I'll go back and say, oh, yeah. Or, this is a particularly kind of like bleak episode or a darker episode or a more kind of emotionally depthful episode. And you do start to kind of see the same names kind of popping up, for different sort of almost like it's shifting ever so subtly through different genres, as you're watching the show. And definitely when I was on Hollyoaks, I really felt that as a writer, that feeling of wanting to kind of bring what you would bring to the table in all of your other work to that show. There were many, many times when I was reminded that it's not a comedy. And there's too many jokes in my episode. And can you just trim a few out? But also, my other big priority is always kind of social commentary. And so, I remember having an episode that was about a sex tape. And I just thought, oh, God, that's really not my area of interest at all. But then I thought, what if we kind of look at this through the lens of sort of revenge porn and like who leaks the sex tape and why, and how does that make a woman feel in terms of like how exposed she is, and, what triggers can, we pull into that. And really kind of finding a way in that is your specific angle, right?
And what you feel passionate about while sticking to what that is and what the story is. But finding those ways in, I think, is really important, and how that character is going to feel about that, and that that is there in the story, of course it is, but then adding in that extra, how I would feel is this, so let's just bring in a little bit of that. I think I write couples arguments very well. I've been told.
I'm sure you're not drawing on personal experience
not
there.
Not at all.
Yeah, I get that. So I'd really love to know you've been at Coronation Street for nearly 10 years now, right? So I would love to know a little bit about which storylines and characters you feel like you've played a really significant part in developing over the years, and what the journey through all of that has been. Yeah.
Well, I suppose most recently the Paul M&D story.
Oh, wow.
I was across that from the absolute conception of it sort of thing. And I mean, it's just been something it's very close to my heart, and it's been really tough at times actually to write those, and that's when you know that you're writing the best that you can, because you're struggling as you're writing it and need to take a break. So not struggling to actually create that, but you're going emotionally I need to go for a walk actually. So that's been really, really amazing,
because it is, I mean, it's such an important storyline, because I don't think enough people know the ins and outs of what people actually go through.
Absolutely.
And how little kind of support there is as well.
And
that Friday night episode, I'm sure you know the one I mean. Any listeners who are big Corrie fans will know exactly the episode that I mean as well. You know, where he's really kind of saying his goodbyes, because he's considering saying goodbye in a very permanent way. I cried my face off. I mean,
well, the thing is, I did, and I watched it when we first got sent it. I watched it again when it was on TV, but also I knew everything that was going to happen, and I was still, you know, a minute in, and I was sobbing, and I just think it's been really important, and obviously those stories, those big stories, those big emotional stories are so important, and then obviously, you know, what's been great recently is like all the Joel stuff and everything, and that's all. I'm trying to, when I talk about it, I'm like, where are we on screen though? Because I know where we are in script, so I'm like, oh. I think what's so great about it, and what I've loved, and what excites me as much as like the first day that I started working there, is that you can, in an episode, explore something like Paul's M&D. You can also have a serial killer. You can also have just some really lovely family funny moments with, you know, the Platts, or and that's what I really, really like. There's nothing really that's off the table when you're pitching. There's nothing really. I think it's our job to go, oh, that might be tricky to show at, you know, pre-Watershed and everything. Let's find a way to do that, you know, because it's important. So since you mentioned when you first started at Corrie, let's go all the way back 9.5 years. What was the journey into Corrie? How did it all happen? And can you recall what it was like starting out there? I mean, what's weird is that I have been there a long time, but I don't feel like I've been there for that amount of time. I still feel like a little newbie. And so I've been saying to my agent for ages that I wanted, she was like, well, no, you can't, I don't know, we'll send our stuff, but, you know, don't know, you know, it's a long shot and all this. And then they started the, they've been doing it, I can't remember how many, anyway, for a few years anyway. They'd done the original Voices scheme, and then I applied for that. And I just remember kind of going, you know what, it's just good for me to apply. And then I got to the day where it was like 12 people were invited, and I remember saying to my partner at the time, well, it's just good that I've got to that 12, because I'm in there and I can just experience, you know. And then it was like each step, I was like, well, it's good that I've got this far, it's good that I've got this far. And and then I just did a trial, and then I was offered kind of 3 episodes, and then 3 more, and it was amazing. I think it's a big deal, and it's a big room when you go in for story conference. There's a lot of people in there, a lot of people who, you know, I was and am still so I just admire that. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing in this room with these amazing people? And so that was really daunting at the time, and it was hard. I found it really hard to, not because of anybody, but just because of my own nerves, really, of like, you know, I'd sit there with something to say, and I'd not say it, and I'd get to the end of the day and I'd still not said it, and I think it was overcoming that as well.
How did you overcome that?
just kind of forced myself to do it. I still haven't. I would still say I haven't completely. I'm not one of the chattiest people in the room. I'm definitely not. I will second guess what I say and think, and I think that's partly who I am and who I'll always be. It's also realising that actually, I know it's probably such a silly thing to say, but everybody's really lovely and supportive. And I think before I started working in TV, I didn't, you hear stories, not of anybody in particular, but just, and it's brutal TV, people are ruthless. And actually, I started at Corrie and just went, everybody's lovely. They're really nice, they're really supportive, you are listened to. And I think it's realising that as well, and just going, no, and also going, every single person says something stupid at some point. And if you realise that and just kind of let yourself, doesn't matter if it's a stupid thing, it's a stupid thing. No one remembers it because everybody's worrying about what they're, what's remembered is the good stuff, because that's what makes it on screen. Don't worry if you say something really daft or.
And also, you never know, like that daft thing could be a jumping off point that leads to a really great idea. So, and if you'd never said it, then that idea may never have come to fruition. I would really love to know what your advice would be for somebody who is just starting out in telly or maybe stage, somebody who wants to work on soap. What would be your big advice in terms of like how to get into it and how to stay in it?
Well, I think definitely with soap, I think if I was to kind of have my time again, it's getting in there through other, applying for storyliner jobs and all of that, because I think I grew up kind of not knowing that these were really jobs, really. I didn't really know. I think the one thing that I would say about TV is that it's not very transparent, and not in terms of that people aren't hiding stuff, but you just don't know. When you're at school, you don't know that these being, well, I didn't anyway, that being a script editor is a job, being a storyliner is a job. I didn't know any of these things.
And this is
maybe
why
that's partly my fault. But
well, I don't know. I mean, I think this is why it's so much easier for people who have grown up knowing that they've got a contact somewhere in the biz, they've got an auntie or an uncle, or their parents are in the biz or whatever. Like, that nepotism isn't just about being given opportunities by your auntie or uncle. It's about knowing that those opportunities even exist.
Absolutely.
Which if you come from a low income background and you don't have any contacts in the industry, particularly if you don't live in a big city where, lots of stuff is being filmed, how would you know?
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think it is about knowing that that's there, and also, which I think is more of a kind of emotional barrier sort of thing, but knowing that that's for you as well, finding out that they exist, but then finding out, well, no, that is for you, that, because I think I definitely didn't think I could work in TV, I could write, like, that was like such a big, it was only when I'd done theatre stuff and I got an agent. It was only when, and I was talking to you about this earlier, wasn't I, about like that kind of outside validation that I, am working on, but absolutely needed to have somebody say, oh no, you have got a voice. Oh no, you have got, oh no, oh yeah, actually you could do this. So I suppose the advice that I would say is get yourself out there and trust that is for you, really. If you want to do it, you've got to go for it. And I suppose don't stop. Oh, that's such a cheesy thing to say, don't stop writing. But I think you need to be writing all the time. If you want to be a writer, you need to be writing all the time. And whether that's like a tiny little, monologue of something that's happened today, or, or you're working on massive play that, you know, or a film, or I think you just need to be doing that all the time, because you never know if you're putting yourself out there when someone's going to say, oh, can I see a bit more of your work? Or can I see? And I think it's having those things teed up. Yeah, you can. Here you go. It's there straight away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying about kind of knowing that it's for you is so crucial, because I mean, I look back at my own writing journey, and I did media and sociology at university at Goldsmiths, and in my final year there was a script writing module, and I didn't take it because I never imagined in a million years that I could ever write a script. Like, I remember a friend of mine taking it, and me just being like, bloody hell, Grace, that sounds hard, good luck. Didn't even cross my mind. It took years for me to really start to believe that it was something that I could do. And sometimes it does, you know, take somebody saying that you have a voice, doesn't it? And for me, like, it was when I was working on Casualty in the script department, thinking, I know I'm interested in story, I know I'm interested in drama and telly, maybe I could be a script editor. And I'd written this short little play, and one of the other script editors looked at it and was like, this is really good, you should send it out. And it just changed everything. So who was that person for you?
That was, so when my friend forced me to apply for the Young Writers Programme at the Everyman, we had to write a full-length play, and mine was extremely short. I think it was probably about 25 minutes. It was not a full-length play. And Suzanne Bell, it was run then by Suzanne Bell and Lindsay Rodden. And,
Suzanne Bell of the Royal Exchange, for those of you that don't know.
And they kind of called me into the office, and I thought I was going to be shouted at. I always think that. I don't know why they would shout at me. And she said, I think you've really got something here. And she went, it's not a full length play. It's really, really short. You know, but there's something here. And I was blown away, because at the time I was working at Jane Norman. I used to have to finish early on a Tuesday to get to the Young Writers Programme, and that was always even though they knew, it was always like, oh, because you need to leave. I need to leave. I told you I need to leave. It's one thing that I want to do. And basically for me it was like, for 2.5 hours every Tuesday, if I talk about plays, that's fine. That'll tick that box for me of feeling, you know, creative and being around those people, and I can happily, you know, become, you know, assistant manager and work in this shop and do that. And it was when probably quite like it's probably quite dangerous that Sue said that, because then I went, oh right, I've got a voice, I could do something else. And she's amazing. And it was a real turning point then.
So where did you go from that turning point? Let's talk a bit about kind of your playwriting career and that journey.
So I did the Young Writers, and then I was offered the writer on attachment thing at the Everyman as well, which then led to, I would say led to, I was writer on attachment with Payne's Plough, and spent a lot of time kind of going down to London and watching a lot of stuff, and wrote something for them and did that.
What was it that you wrote for them?
Oh, what did I write for them? Oh my gosh, I don't remember. No, that's a terrible thing, isn't it? What did I write for them? It didn't go on. We had, it was a bit of a mad, like, two-hander. I don't want to talk about that. But
probably great practice for the later two-hander that you wrote.
And then, I had a little tiny piece on that Adam co-directed, and that was at the Everyman. And then I just kind of got to know Adam and Hannah like that, and then they did wordplay and commissioned me for that, which was a 15-minute play, and that was like my first proper commission that was going to be, you know, it was proper, and that was just brilliant. And then from there they said, I think there's more in this, because it was basically, I just packed loads into this. There was far too much into this 15-minute play, and then they said, there's more here, we want to commission you for a full-length play. And then that's how Plastic Figurines was born. So that was, I think that was a really big turning point then. That was like, oh wow, okay, I can really do this. And like people will come and see what I've written. And then obviously it was published, which was insane to me. I was like, I remember me and my partner at the time went down to the National, went to the bookshop, and there's a picture of me pointing, going, there's my play.
I mean, who wouldn't do that though?
Exactly,
right?
So many people. But it
How
was,
could you not?
It was so cool. So it was really lovely.
So talk to me a bit about Plastic Figurines. I'd really love to know the inspiration behind it, what the journey was like writing it with Box of Tricks' support, and then how you felt kind of seeing it come to life.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very personal. It's about a brother and a sister, and their mum passes away, and it's about their relationship, and it's not, it's not autobiographical, but it's a lot of things taken from my life, with family stuff, and it was, it was one of them where it started I would say very, very autobiographical. And I had to take a little bit of a step back, because you're not writing a memoir, or I wasn't in this instance. I was making stuff up, and I needed to be able to take a little bit of a step back and go, I am making it up. So it's okay if, I don't know, a negative thing is said about the mum who's died. It doesn't mean that I'm saying a negative thing about my mum who's died, but maybe I am working through something like that. So it's difficult, isn't it, when you're very close to something? I think it's important to take that step. And the thing was, because I felt like me and Adam worked very, very closely on it, and he knew a lot of the personal links, and we spoke about that a lot, so he was great at supporting that, and kind of respecting when I go, no, I've got a bit stuck and I don't know what to do. And that it was great. It was a dream experience.
Wow.
In terms of like writer director relationship, because, and the thing is, in a way, it spoiled me a little bit, because I'm like, oh no,
it's not going to be like this all the time.
No, they're horrible. but it was brilliant. It was a really lovely experience.
And then in terms of what the actors then brought to those roles, kind of stepping into it, how was that for you?
I mean, amazing, and just really, it was really nice when they were kind of going off and then bringing stuff to rehearsals again that I was surprised by, or that I didn't know, or that they'd seen a tiny thing in a line, which maybe for me was a bit more of a throwaway. That, Jamie especially kind of would really be like, well, I thought about this, and I'd be like, oh no, amazing, like you've like thought about that, just not even in the opposite way to me, but in a kind of a shifted way. Or so that was really lovely, just hearing those other ways that people have thought about the words that I'd written that I hadn't considered, or just interrogating that stuff that you think is there. It's there. Oh, it's there on the page. It's there on the page. It's not always, and you need to. I think collaboration is just so important.
It's everything, isn't it? I
think it really is, yeah. And it's not to say that I can't be precious sometimes, and but I think it's really important.
So let's talk about the journey through theatre after Plastic Figurines, because when was Plastic Figurines staged?
Oh gosh,
was it about 10 years ago? More recent than that? I'm trying to think.
So
I might be able to find out from here.
The second time when it was at the new diorama, that was when I just had my little boy, because I've got a picture of him, and I put him in a little Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and he was about...
I'll see if you can guess the year. I've got the answer in front of me now.
Well, he was a couple of months old then, but it was before, so I think it was like 2015.
Well done.
Was it?
Give the girl a coconut. Yeah, it was. And then there was a revival at New Diorama in 2016.
Yes.
So how did that feel, knowing that not only had you knocked it out of the park the first time around, but that it was so successful, it was going to get published, and then it was going to have a revival.
I mean, that was just so cool. Yeah, it was just, it was just amazing. And being able to take, my little boy who was, I think he was probably about 6 weeks old.
Wow.
Being able to take him and obviously he doesn't remember that, but I remember it was such an important thing to kind of
share with him.
It's lovely.
Look at what mummy's done.
Yeah.
So in terms of your journey through theatre after plastic figurines, how's that been? Are you still kind of keeping your hand in, even though you're more TV these days?
Yeah, I mean, I am more TV. I did a JB Shorts recently. Would it be last year? I literally have no concept of time. Which was great. But because I hadn't written a lot of theatre recently, it was a new, again, I found myself being quite nervous, and I was like, I shouldn't be nervous about this, and then developing stuff with Adam and Hannah as well, and kind of going, God, I feel nervous about this now, and but I like that. I like feeling, I mean, again, I'm a very nervous person anyway, but I do like feeling, which is good, but just, can I do this? Like, which is good because I feel like that all the time anyway. But yeah, I like being challenged, and but yeah, I have kind of focused more on TV in the last few years, definitely.
And one of the things that you've written on is Mallory Towers.
Yes.
How was that? Especially writing for a kind of kids or youth skewing show when you have kids of your own.
You know what? I think the most challenging thing about that was the time period. And the notes I kept getting was like, no, that's really modern. That's really modern. That's really modern. And I was like,
because what year is it set in?
Oh gosh. I don't know. Why can't I remember that? Is it not 40s?
Yeah, I thought it was probably 40s or 50s.
Because there's all,
That's when Enid Blyton was big, right?
Yeah. And so I think that was probably the trickiest thing for me was just questioning, is that at the right time? It was great. I didn't read the books as a kid.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, I don't think they were, I don't know. I don't think it was very, very me as a kid, really. I think I was more kind of like Roald Dahl and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was interesting coming to, because obviously I read all the books, well, all of the books, 3 of the books, and kind of coming to that as an adult and going, okay, so this is what. But it was a brilliant show. Like I did really, really enjoy it, but I wouldn't say it's my natural fit.
But I suppose this comes back to what you were saying in terms of theatre, that it's so good to step out of your comfort zone every so often, isn't it?
But I think something like when I did the Dumping Ground, I would say that is more of a natural fit for me. And oddly, I wrote some PJ Masks as well, and one of the reasons I did that is it's amazing, but also it was my son's favourite show at the time. So my agent was like, would you be interested in this? And I was like, absolutely. It's Alfie's favourite show. And that was so much fun because that was, aliens and superheroes and made me feel like a kid, really. So that was lovely.
So what are your hopes and dreams for the future in terms of your career?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm working on something at the minute, which is solely from my brain, which is daunting but very exciting.
And is that a play or is it something for telly?
It's a series
that
I'm developing. Developing, it's early doors.
I know how it is.
It's early doors. But I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited, but I'm also coming up against that feeling because I'm a lot more alone with it because it's mine. So I'm so used to being now in that room where it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And we will get to that point where there's more people kind of throwing ideas in. And I think, to be honest, that's what I'm the most excited about, of getting in a room and going and having people throw things at me. Yeah. And challenge what I think the show is. But I mean, I still get as excited when I get the storylines through for Corrie. I am still as excited, if probably more so, than I was when I first started. Wow. I'm so like, oh, what's my episode? And that's lovely. I like being part of a team, really. I think so.
And maybe also the secret to being happy on the show that you're working on is to never stop being a fan.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you do cry at the episode even though you know what's going to happen next. Yeah.
Ella Carmen Greenhill, thanks so much for being such a wonderful guest.
Oh, thank you.
You can follow Ella on Twitter at Ella Greenhill and Box of Tricks on Twitter at BOTTC or on Instagram at Box of Tricks Theatre. You can find me at Karla M Sweet on both platforms and now also on Substack at karlamariesweet.substack.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends, share it on social media, and of course, subscribe. I'll see you next time.